Well, hello, listeners, and thanks for popping in for episode 5 of our UnifyHub podcast. Please lend us your ears because we've got a really relatable topic this week: cultural differences. I hope you've had a fruitful week at work and managed to find time to switch off and recharge your batteries. To be honest, I'm already in holiday mode because I'm off on a girls' holiday with my best friends from Latvia next week, and I can't wait. Now, you might not know this, but I've recently relocated and I'm currently living close to the Sahara region in the south of Morocco. And being in a vastly different country and culture, this week's guest teacher is bringing me a little piece of home. So, he's actually from my neck of the woods. And by the way, neck of the woods is an idiom which means a particular area or place. So he's here today to have a laugh about the funny cultural faux pas that people often make. It's UnifyHub's very own Essex boy, Kevin. Kevin, you are from Essex, aren't you? Brilliant. Go on, introduce yourself to our listeners, please.
Okay, so I've been working at UnifyHub for about 3.5 years, I think, quite a long time. So originally I was living in St. Petersburg, and then after I've been travelling around Europe and North Africa and the Middle East.
Yeah, you know Morocco, don't you? You know Morocco.
Near Morocco, yeah.
You've been to 58 countries, 60 countries, Kevin, right?
58, I think, if I count correctly. Depends if you count Wales and Scotland as country.
Oh, this is a very good link to our cultural faux pas question in a moment. Brilliant. Okay, so you've been to 68 countries, so you are a globe trotter. And what do you do, apart from travelling, what do you do in your free time?
At the moment, I'm just saving money in Essex, so I haven't been doing too much. But I like watching movies. I trained to be a film director, actually, at film school.
That's incredible.
And I like walking. I do simple things right now.
Yeah, me
Eating,
too.
just regular things. But I come alive when I start traveling. So I will be in Cyprus from next month, and then after that I will be going to Hungary and traveling Eastern Europe.
Oh, so listeners, if anybody out there is in Cyprus, I'm going to give you Kevin's hotel address and you can go and stalk him in Cyprus because he'll be there next week. Brilliant. I know what you're saying, Kevin, about coming alive when you travel, because I enjoy everyday regular things like walking the dog, watching movies, but that feeling of getting on a plane and exploring somewhere new, you know.
I love the feeling of traveling, just being on a bus. It's not really it's a bit of a cliche, but I don't really. The destination is great, but it's the getting there that I love.
Yeah, I even love the airport, for example, or the bus station. You know that feeling when you're just embarking on the journey, like, gosh, there's no feeling in the world like it, really. So, you are such a globetrotter. You're going to be hot-footing it around the world this year. Um, and tell me what you most enjoy about teaching English as a foreign language.
So I really enjoy helping other people to achieve their dreams, and I really like the one-to-one aspect. I like teaching one-to-one students because you can have a conversation, you can have develop a relationship, a friendship with people. Yeah. So I think it's really important. I don't just see my students as like customers or as students. Exactly. I've been teaching a lot of my students for years now, and I've developed a trust and a relationship with them, and I just like helping them achieve their aims and what they want to do with life.
So satisfying, isn't it? Rewarding. The level of reward you get from that, not only seeing them achieve their goals through English, but actually having this meaningful, very authentic connection with people, you know. I know everything about, like, Dimitri. Really, I know everything about him. I've shared life-changing moments with Kiko. I've watched her, you know, try for a baby, relocate, like you stay with people in these life-changing moments and these milestones. It's brilliant, you know.
And sometimes it doesn't seem like a job. Sometimes it just.
I agree. I agree.
And obviously it's a very nice way to travel, and it opens your eyes to different people's cultures and sharing different aspects, and it's a very interesting job.
I agree, and I just couldn't see myself doing anything else, really. I want to ask you, actually, you said you trained to be a film director, Kevin. Wow.
Yes, a long time ago.
Okay, but what sparked your interest in film directing initially? What was it that inspired you?
Well, originally I wanted to be an actor when I was like 12 to 16. I did a lot of acting at school, and I really enjoyed it. But then I realised an actor often doesn't get to write their own script.
Sure.
And then I started getting into Quentin Tarantino. This is when Pulp Fiction was coming out.
Tarantino.
When I was about 15, 16. Some other film directors from this period, like Oliver Stone and Stanley Kubrick. And I just was like, wow, I want to be a film director. So that was like my first passion. And then I went to university and studied film directing.
Amazing.
But it's a lot of scientific work, a lot of
More
technical stuff. Yeah, and I was more like a dreamer, and I was dreaming about the artistic side of it. And I found eventually it didn't actually match.
Yeah. Because you're very personable, Kevin. You know, you're very charismatic, very personable. So I can see why you have made a career out of working with people directly. It's something like teaching English, which is really meaningful, as we said. So, okay, let's get to the juicy stuff now. So, Kevin, I'm going to throw you straight in at the deep end here. Can you tell us about a funny cultural faux pas that you have personally made? I've got loads.
I have a few from different places I've taught. So one was in Spain, in Melilla, which is like bordering with Morocco. I was teaching some students. Maybe it's not a cultural faux pas, it's just a difference in how words can mean different things in English, and their names in this case. So Juan Carlos is a very common name in Spain. And do you know the shortened name of Juan Carlos?
It must be like Juanco or Juanca. Just for our listeners, you might want to Google this word after the show.
So he introduced himself as Wanker, and I actually thought he was joking, so I started saying, no, what is your name? And like, this is the first time I've met this kid. He's only about 8 years old. But I thought he's obviously trying to upset me on my first day of work.
Yeah.
I thought, this one's a joker, like calling himself Wanker. So I kept saying, no, what is your name? And then all the kids were just going, Wanker, Wanker. And I was like,
oh my God.
I was like, what is happening? It was very bizarre, completely misunderstood. And then someone said, Juan Carlos. And I went, Juan Carlos. And they were like, yeah, Wanker. And I said, no.
I had something like that. I was teaching a grade 2 class in Peru, and I don't know why, but they think that putting 2 middle fingers up means peace. You know, doing the V sign with your fingers, they think that means peace. So I've got this group of 7-year-old international kids, and in every class photo, they are like 24 kids doing the V sign. And it's like, that's swearing in England. But they think it means peace. So, and all the parents are there as well, just swearing at the photo. It's just brilliant. It's like, no, guys, turn your hand around. You can't do the V sign. That is swearing. Brilliant. I love those mishaps. It's so cheeky, so funny. I also once, talking about hand gestures, made a rude hand gesture to my 75-year-old old Alberto from Italy, and didn't know I was making a rude hand gesture for 6 months until he finally told me. So, yes, it definitely happens.
I was crossing your fingers. In most cultures, I think means good luck, or
like fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. I hope that something's going to happen. Whereas if you do this in Vietnam, it actually means the symbol for having sex, for 2 people getting together.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure I've done the fingers crossed, Kevin, at some point, but not in Vietnam.
Did this in front of about 30 students, and they all looked very, very embarrassed, and they were too too shy, because Vietnamese people can be quite shy about telling me what I did wrong, and I actually found out afterwards.
Brilliant.
From a teacher, like don't do the fingers, don't cross your fingers in Vietnam.
Right. So for our listeners, 2 things: do not point your thumb backwards over your shoulder when speaking to an Italian, apparently, and do not cross your fingers like a good luck sign when you're in Vietnam. So we've already learned 2 very culturally important ways not to make a faux pas. Okay, Kevin, let's talk about British faux pas now. So if our students or our listeners are travelling to the UK, what are some of the faux pas they could make, and how can we avoid them? So the first one, refusing a cup of tea. Is this really a faux pas? Should you refuse a cup of tea in England?
Well, I'm going to let you into a secret. I don't like tea.
What?
As an English person. Mm-hmm.
Who even are you?
And if I do drink tea, it would be without milk.
What?
Like in Morocco, I'd have like a mint tea or something like this. I don't like regular English tea.
Is it because you've been to 68 countries, you know?
Yeah, probably. I've never liked tea. I don't like hot drinks, coffee or tea. And often in England, people go, coffee or tea? And I just actually refuse both, and it is a faux pas.
Oh, it actually really is a faux pas.
You could say coffee. Often people say tea or coffee.
Yeah, exactly. But to just refuse completely, like, no, nothing.
People, they look at you like a little bit weirdly, but I really don't like tea and I really don't like coffee, but I've been guilty of this faux pas myself. I just decide not to have it. I ask for water, and then water, like, it's very strange. Yeah, if I say I don't like tea, people tend to be shocked in England and other countries.
Okay, now my next one. This is something that happened to one of my Peruvian friends when she visited England. Staying on the left of the escalator or stairwell, especially when you're on the underground. Why is that so bad in London?
Because people want to run down the stairs if they're late, and that's blocking the line. I used to live in London, and that's the most annoying thing possible. If you're going to work and you're late, which often happens, especially with the London Underground times, you're running down those stairs, and if there is a tourist in your way, it can be very annoying, and you tend to pick them up and then move them to the right.
Right, so just know this, guys. If you're on an escalator or a stairwell in the UK, stick to the right, because people need to get past when they're in a rush. So, right, just to be sure, Kevin, it's the right side that is correct.
I'm not very good with my left and right. I think people should stand on their left side. It's like driving, I think. And then the right side. Hang on, no. I'm on it. I'm physically... See, I've been in so many countries, and there is often rules with the escalator. So in St. Petersburg, on the underground, there is a rule.
A rule as well, right. So what we should do, guys, Kevin and I aren't exactly sure which side, but pay attention. Exactly, pay attention to which side people are standing on the escalator and stay there. Okay, number 3, discussing money. Is this a faux pas? And, I mean... I wouldn't even discuss money with my best mates, to be honest.
No, I think it depends. You can talk about if something is cheap or expensive, I think. I don't think that's a faux pas, but I think asking people about their salaries or asking people how much their things cost, their personal items cost, I think that's a faux pas.
Good point.
But I don't think you can go shopping and go, oh, that's cheap or that's expensive. I don't think.
Yeah.
I think people can talk about money generally, just not when it's about personal things.
Exactly. Yeah, so actually, like, making small talk. Hi, how you doing? So, what's your salary?
Probably. Which I have had in other countries.
Yeah.
There are some countries where people ask about money straight away.
That's really interesting. Okay, this one. It's a big one. I feel very passionately about this next one. Jumping the queue. Okay, it's such a faux pas in the UK, isn't it, Kevin? Tell us about this one.
You have to line up in a queue and you have to keep your place. You can't leave your place. And I know in a lot of other cultures, in Spain, for example, they leave the queue. If there's a long queue, they might leave a queue and then go do something else. And the same in Russia, I believe. You have to remember, you ask who's in front of you. You don't stay in the queue as a solitary line. You find out who's in front of you, and then you go and sit down, and everybody's in a big mess. And you only remember your line from the next person.
Oh, that sounds like chaos to me. Well, here in Morocco, it's like you go to a government office to do documents, and it's just a whole mess of people, and you basically have to elbow people aside to get to the. It's just there's no order. So
in England, you have to be in the line. Don't leave the line.
Stay in the line.
Stay in a straight line. You can't go off into. You have to be in a straight line, and then you talk a little bit, maybe to the person in front of you or behind you, make some small talk.
Exactly.
There's a level of enjoyment about being in a queue, almost.
There is. It's got its own etiquette, hasn't it?
And you're all part of. You're sharing your experience.
Yeah. I like queuing. I really do, and it really gets on my nerves when people try to jump the queue. I get very irrationally annoyed about this, honestly.
Some people, if they were disabled or they were older women and they were pregnant, they'll be invited to jump the queue, but they wouldn't necessarily expect to jump the queue. But if you do see someone who's older or disabled or pregnant, then people will often usher them to the front of the line, I would.
Exactly. Or maybe if you've got a lot of shopping and the person behind you only has one item, it's quite normal to say, like, oh, just go ahead, no worries. Okay, talking loudly in public places. Why is this a faux pas in the UK?
In Essex, where I'm from, I don't really think that's a faux pas. I mean, people are I don't know if that's a cliche, because I think it depends what area you're from in England or the United Kingdom. Because in Essex, people from my area, we're quite shouty in public. So I don't think that is always a faux pas. I mean, there'll be certain places like a library or in a shop maybe, but outside in the street,
Brilliant.
I don't think it's a big faux pas. Do you?
No, I don't, because I'm loud. And I get people telling me to be quiet everywhere I go. Actually, I'm that loud. I just think Essex is my soul city then, in that case. So, yeah, I don't think it's a faux pas.
Because, like, in, say, Japan or in Taiwan, like, when you're on the trains, you should be pretty much silent. You can't play music. And it's not that level of seriousness. And if you speak really loudly on a train in Japan, then people are looking at you really badly. So, and you don't get that in England, but it may be seen. I guess it may be seen as a bit disrespectful to be shouting in the streets, and older people might not appreciate it.
I suppose when you compare it to perhaps more reticent cultures, then in that case, yeah, I can see that. I want to ask you now, Kevin, about humour. So, the one thing that makes me feel proud to be British, and it's not the food, of course, and it's definitely not the weather, but I do think we have got a cracking sense of humour and cracking national sense of humour. So how would you describe the British sense of humour, and how well does that translate into other cultures?
I think a lot of our humour is quite sarcastic and dry, if I can describe it like that.
Yeah.
And it's based on everyday life. And it's often based on words and playing with words, and it's quite witty.
Yes.
It's not so slapstick. I mean, we have Mr. Bean, and I guess internationally, probably something like Mr. Bean is more famous, and then we have like Monty Python, which I know is quite popular around the world with some of my students, and that's a little bit more surreal, I guess. So I think we have lots of different senses of humour, actually.
Yeah, lots of different styles, I think, but something, like you said, a thread that seems to run through all is this kind of sharp wittiness. And I think we really value that. Yeah, you use the word slapstick, which is a great word, which I love. It's like, imagine Homer Simpson, like, walks into a tree and hurts himself and says, ow. And that's funny in its own way, but I just think the British irony is just classic. Um, do you think there are some styles of comedy or some types of humour that just couldn't be transmitted well to in other cultures? Like, I don't know. What do you reckon?
I think, strangely enough, American to English humour doesn't always travel well. And a lot of people think we're very similar cultures, but I think our humour is very different. And sometimes
Yes.
English comedy doesn't travel well. Though there are lots of famous comedians from Britain working in America.
And
Whereas,
vice
because
versa.
our comedy can be quite dark and we can joke about death and like quite serious things, I think
Yes.
some people find that a little bit shocking.
And one big difference I notice as well is that British humour is quite self-deprecating. So we tend to laugh at ourselves a lot. We make ourselves the butt of the joke. Whereas in America, it's often about rinsing or burning other people. You know these words where they like make fun of others, but we actually take... Yeah, and it's roasting, that's it, roasting. There's a show about roasting, isn't there? I gotta catch up on that. Okay, Kevin, I'm going to give you 2 quick fire questions because time flies when you're having fun, good sir. So, okay, 2 quick fire questions. If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
I think the ability to teleport anywhere in the world
Great
would
one.
be a great thing because of my love of travel, and I would just be able to go anywhere in the world without having to take a 12-hour flight or something.
Yes! Okay, if you were an ice cream flavour, what would you be?
Banoffee pie ice cream, if that's such a flavour.
I like it. Banoffee pie.
Or like
I
some
would
fancy
be-
Italian, like biscotto. I wouldn't just be like some chocolate or vanilla or something. Something very unique.
Yeah, you're not standard, Kevin, are you? You're not just a run-of-the-mill guy. Okay, I've got time for one more. Kevin, what is your guilty pleasure TV show or movie?
That's a difficult one. Uh,
I've got one.
I
about
like
music.
Neighbours, which is an Australian soap opera.
Oh, brilliant!
It brings me
Brilliant.
back to my childhood. I mean, most of the actors are no longer on the show anymore, but I like the nostalgia of it. It feels very like my childhood, which is strange because it's in Australia, which is miles and miles of the opposite end of the world. But there's something very
Neighbours was
homely about
so popular, though, wasn't it? Neighbours
Yeah.
and Home and Away were like the 2 soaps growing up for us, weren't they?
So it just feels like
Ironically.
something, even I can watch it now and I just feel at home.
That's
in
really
there.
cool. It makes me feel like I am emotionally teleporting right now, speaking about the TV show Neighbours. Well, I just want to share one thing with you, but don't tell anyone. I sometimes listen to Justin Bieber, but I'm sorry, and I know it's bad, but I really like
He's
him.
okay. I don't.
Yeah. Thanks, Kevin, for making me feel better about that. Oh, did I just accidentally record that on a podcast? Oopsie. So, thank you for listening, everyone. Kevin, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and I'm going to try to get you back for a second podcast at some point as well.
Okay, no problems.
So I think we can safely say that our listeners are going to be able to avoid cultural faux pas when they go to some countries, and especially to the UK. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on. See you soon. Take
Thank
it
you.
easy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was great! Thanks, Kevin!
That's
So if you
okay.
press stop,
I don't know if I'm stopping.
and then...
What is happening? I don't understand. I hope it recorded.
So yeah, if you stop, press the stop button, and then if you go to file...
But it's not, it's doing something weird. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, let me give
Because I'm
you
not.
permission. Let me just give you screen sharing permission. Okay, you can share now.
Maybe I'm being stupid. So, that's recording, right?
Oh, it's recorded, yeah.
And then I'm doing that, and it's not.
Okay, so if
It's
you
not stopping.
go... click the square button.
Ah!